third installment of my Repulsive TV. Thank you very much if you've come back after watching the other two, and if you haven't and it's new and you're giving it a shot, thanks for giving it a shot. I'm Ralphie Repulsive, the bass player and singer for the Order of the Fly and a band called End. And joining me this evening, we've got Abby Noxious from both bands as well, and Dax, aka number 1138, aka Devious the Clown. From the three of us, this right here, basically, minus another guy named, well, first lineup would be another guy named Mike Maxwell, would be the very first iteration of the Order of the Fly. Yeah, there are a couple, I guess, others, but so Mike is sort of like, I've lost touch with him, but he would have been completing the lineup. So tonight, what I'd like to do is sort of continue my my introduction to how our band started and the little scene that surrounded us and the people involved and all of our friends, and also discuss some of the records and bands and stuff that were the major influences in the creation of our band. So, just to kick it off, I did want to bring up I had a couple of record purchases this week. First off, I keep mentioning my favorite synthwave guy, Vampire Stepdad, and this evening I brought the only physical manifestation of his music that I have, because I'm not a big fan of CDs anymore, because if it's just on CD, I might as well just download it, because that's all I'll do with the CD anyway. But I do like the sort of the physical element of music. So, well, this is going to be hard to see from that far away. I'll just edit in a little shot of it. But this is his newest EP, or LP, what do we call it? I'm going to go with EP. Yeah, his newest tape called Night Shift. This one, the one that I sort of suggested in the graphic last episode was Love Bites, which is my favorite by him. It's a very, because it's vampiric in nature, and every song flows, just the song titles alone, it completely like tells a whole entire story. This one does too. This one has the sort of Lethal Weapon, Buddy Cop vibe to it, though. Kind of like Buddy Cop. And what was that? Do you remember that? What was the name of that vampire cop show? Anybody remember?
The Vampire Cop Show.
It was a great show. Too hot for this jacket.
No.
It was a TV show.
Yeah.
It was like
yeah, I've seen it on YouTube. It's like those clips of Vampire Stepdad, dude.
It was so no, it was so low budget. It was great. It was like right around the time of the Vampire the Masquerade TV show. That era. Late 90s.
Oh, that's right. There was a Vampire Masquerade TV show. I love that show.
Yeah, that one. It would have been cooler if they would have done any makeup effects at all, but all the Nosferatu dudes were just bald. Just bald.
Yep.
That's the only ugliness. Thanks a lot for equating that with ugliness, by the way. Vampires.
You mean to tell me you're not ugly?
No, bald's beautiful.
Oh.
So, okay, so this week I did pick up a couple of new records. Pretty sweet. I got a sweet new Samhanin live bootleg on green vinyl. Let me show you. Called Black Flame. And it's good. It was from, I believe, 1984, or I'll tell you right now. It was recorded live at the Jockey Club in Newport, Kentucky on September 16th, 1984, during the first ever Samhain Season of the Dead mini tour. And I know that Samhain's actually pronounced Samhain, but I think the band calls it Samhain, so I'm sticking with that too. I like the American mispronunciation better. Yeah. It was when Danzig looked the coolest. And this is my favorite of, well, actually, we'll come up to this in a minute. In fact, I'll discuss other Samhain albums, but this one's a pretty cool little bootleg. And then I got the new Strung Out.
I remember them.
Blackout the Sky. Yeah, we were discussing them actually after the show last week, or after practice last week. It's got a cool gatefold. There's also kind of an implied storyline with some of the artwork. And the lyrics are awesome. This is a really different record for them because normally they're very They sort of blend, yeah, they blend the pop punk sound and metal. But this has much more acoustic guitars. It's all the grandpa's guitars coming out in this one. Still some electrics and stuff, but it's a very heavily acoustic album, but it's excellent. So after practice last week, we were sitting around listening to stuff and nerding out on both this new album. Tom was playing it, and then we were going off on like great like pop punk bands and stuff that we love, like Lagwagon. Yeah, No Effects, of course. Then we'll have to do a whole episode on No Effects because Fat Mike is probably my third favorite bass player of all time. I love his bass tone. I love his distortion and stuff. So I wanted to get into our little history lesson. I don't want to go as long as last time either, so we're going to kind of watch the clock on this bad boy. But way back, so let's set the Wayback Machine. Years 1999. How did we meet? Like how? I know. Well, I mean, how did?
I don't even remember.
Yeah, like okay, so Tiff and I knew each other, and then Mike Maxwell, the other guy who's not here, you knew him for a long time. And I really badly wanted to start a band. This is like, you know, like if you continue from the last episode, it's been like a dream of mine to do this theatric punk band. At this time in my life, I was doing special makeup effects for a living, so I had access to stuff to make cool effects, and I just really decided, you know, it's kind of now or never. I was 22, 25, somewhere. How old were we? We were in our early to mid-20s.
22.
No. We were older than that, I think.
No, we were like 21, 22, dude.
Okay, so I don't know. I think it was later than that.
No.
I'm gonna say at least 24.
No.
99. I mean, well, I can do the math. So 2000, I would have been 25. So 24. I'd say 24. 23, 24. All right, we'll say that.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
kind of felt like, I was around 1999. I'm working in effects. I'm still collecting comics, and at the time, this is like the sort of the very waning end, not quite the waning end, but the black and white explosion of the 80s all through the 90s is kind of starting to wane. But the comic that I was the most into around this time was a comic that was put out by an artist named Drew Hayes called Poison Elves. And Poison Elves was
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
yeah, excellent comic. All the volumes are available by Sirius Comics in collected editions. I think the whole run.
Exist anymore?
Yeah, they do. They still do. They're called like Cosmic something.
Well, then it's not.
No, it's still Sirius. It's called, but their online thing is like I don't know. I'll look it up.
Okay.
I'll put it in the little graphic thing. But so I was reading Poison Elves, and one of the things I loved the most about both Poison Elves and another comic that I'll talk about later called Cerebus is that both of the creators did everything. So they both wrote and drew and everything, the comic, and they would have these great letters pages. This is very nascent stage of the internet, so people were still doing snail mail, and it was still cool to see like your letter printed in a comic. So people would send a lot of things in, and Drew Hayes, the creator, an artist and writer of Poison Elves, also was in a band, Swamp. He called it a Swamp Billy, like Psychobilly Swamp. I don't know. I never heard it. I always wanted to look it up. Maybe I could find the 7-inch somewhere. It's probably worth a mint.
Yeah.
Because he passed away due to complications related to a long time ago, actually. Passed away about 15 years ago due to he had some complications due to sleep apnea that like sent his health into a spiral, and that was a serious drag. But I really would have loved to have met him. But he, anyways, he had a great. In the intro to his comics, he would have the inside cover of the front page would be called Death Threats, and it would just be a sort of rundown of what's going on in his life, real stream of consciousness kind of stuff. One time he was talking about his band and everything, and he said in there, I'll find the individual issue, I'll find it for next show, but it said specifically, you know, if you're around 23, 24, and you want to start a band and you haven't done it yet, do it. Like, it was basically like, just get out there and do it, go create. So I took it to heart, and I was like, this is it, man. I read that, and I was like, yes. It just like clicked, and I was like, I'm doing this.
Time to start my band.
It was time to start the band. So we talked to, Tiff and I talked to Mike Maxwell, who was interested in playing. He did not really know how to play guitar. I'm gonna be generous here. He was not quite his most of his I think performance was based on the toggle switch of just toggling feedback on and off. He was in the very early stages of learning how to play. We weren't much better either, but so it's not a knock on you, Mike, if you see this. But I mean, we'll be honest.
I had no idea how to play anything.
No.
So.
And you didn't. So at this stage of the game, you were just kind of like stage performance. No, I mean you didn't play anything in the band yet.
I didn't.
She was going to be like a backup singer, along with Sarah, Mike's girlfriend at the time, and so. And Kersey, yeah, that's right. But she came a little bit later. So okay, so the first three, it was Tiff, me, and Mike, and we're trying to find. We needed a drummer, and I wanted another guitar player. So then I remember we were at. Okay, this is what I remember first meeting you. I don't remember if it was at the Renaissance Fair or at a concert or something at the Blockbuster Pavilion or the Glen Helen Pavilion or whatever it's called.
It was at a concert.
It was a concert because you had a camera and you were like photographing the bands.
I was photographing for Ragtag magazine, just doing like weird shots of bands and stuff for them, you know, to make ends doing, you know, whatever.
Do you remember that?
I do
meeting
remember
us?
that. Yeah.
Okay, so that was our first time we met.
I remember.
You had like a little pork pie hat.
Yeah,
that's what I remember about you. You looked like all scawed out.
Yeah, I remember meeting you because I remembered Tiff.
Okay.
So the next time we met up was at Mike's house. You guys showed up, and me and Mike had been messing around with this fucking 7-string guitar and this craziness that we were playing with.
Yeah, you had a MIDI guitar.
Right, and I had this
that
crazy,
was like
yeah.
What was that thing called?
You were like, it was a Ibanez Crossing.
All right.
Like a fucking old school MIDI controller guitar.
Yeah.
And you were like, I want to start a band, and I was like, hey dude, I want to start a band too. And we all decided all at the same time that it was going to be a fucking crazy band. And you were like, I always wanted to be a monster.
Yep.
And I was like, dude, me too. And then Mike was like, yeah, me too.
Yep.
So we decided to all be monsters.
Yeah. So yeah, we basically, we all luckily happened to be, because it is very hard. If anybody else has ever tried to start a band and is interested in doing some theatric kind of stuff, a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people think it is freaking stupid. They're not fans. It's hard to tell people, like, you got to put on makeup. It's got to be like
this.
Yeah, something.
You want to do this every night we play a show?
Which
it's rough.
I mean, it is, but I mean, I'm not an attractive guy normally. Like I'm not. Well, I mean, I am being a little self-deprecating. I'm not like hideous, but it's like I don't look cool. I'm not a cool-looking dude. I'm not Tom Cruise.
I'm fucking hideous. All right. That's why I wear this.
Yeah,
thing.
Exactly.
Hey,
we both benefit greatly from the makeup.
Than the other one.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm like twice as hideous.
No shit.
Come on, now,
there we go. Here we go. That's some good self-esteem crushing
that's all
comments
you guys
we're doing
get
here.
from us.
Can we just like move on from that part?
Yeah. So okay. So anywho. So we decided at this party, it was at Mike's house. Mike lived in this apartment complex that was like totally ghetto. I mean, it was like just down the road from the first.
Muscoy!
Yeah, it was off of
San Bernardino.
Yeah, Medical Center Drive. The Delman Heights Bloods are like right there. There were like people getting shot in the freaking front of the place all the time. We used to get rocks thrown at us by the kids. And the Hells Angels like clubhouse. The original one is like right down the road.
Blocks away, dude.
Yeah, like maybe like
like 2.
Yeah. So it's an interesting area. San Bernardino is interesting as it is if you have never visited this wonderful burg, but if you know the area, you know how shitty this part of the town is. And I'm not exaggerating. This is like the most ghetto. This is like the epicenter of the ghetto. The only thing even worse would be like downtown G Street and like, 13th or something like that.
Second.
Yeah, right. Anywhere in that area is awful. But Mike had this like massive cockroach infection in his place. So every time we'd go over there, you'd have to kind of be very mindful of like wherever you're sitting down because that place was infested with cockroaches. Remember how bad? No, I never experienced the Pritchett's, but.
Oh my God, the mother roach. Oh my God.
I'm sorry to like. Yeah, I don't mean to put out Mike's stuff out there. So anyways, so that was the night that we decided it was like a Halloween night. So it was appropriate. It was not quite Halloween. This was before.
Yeah, it was before.
So what we decided was we were gonna just write a couple of songs. We decided early on we didn't want to just do covers. We wanted to write original material, and we did do a couple of covers. Yeah, I mean, I love doing covers. I'm not anti-cover, but we were intentionally gonna write our own shit.
Yes.
I gotta stop swearing. Sorry, that's the last one I say. So anyways, yeah, our own stuff. And so we decided to get writing. So we immediately sat down, started writing. Dax wrote a song. I wrote a couple songs. We did a cover of Sympathy for the Devil by the Rolling Stones. And I don't remember what else. I think that was kind of it at the time. I think we maybe had 4 or 5 songs.
Chosen One, I think, was
that was
the first.
Yeah, that was one of the first few. Yeah, we did a demo at that place On Tracks. That was the worst thing ever recorded.
Terrible.
So bad. Not ready to record. But we were always like driven to do something. Yeah, we gave it a shot. So we did this like party on Halloween night, 1999.
E for effort.
Yeah. Exactly. Was it 99 or 2000?
It was 99 because...
It was 99
okay.
Our first show was supposed to be New Year's Day.
Yes.
At the Bricks.
That's right. Okay, so good. So this is how... Okay, excellent. I'm glad you brought that up. So 1999, Halloween night was our first kind of show. It was going to be at Mike Maxwell's little house party thing.
On bongos?
Yes, we had a guy. I don't even know that guy. I don't even know who it is, but apparently some dude named Jimmy played bongos.
He up like Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, okay.
On bongos.
Shows how well I know him. Yeah.
I don't think any of us.
Because we didn't have a drummer yet.
For sure.
So we didn't have a drummer. We had a bongo player. We tried to do our stuff. I was playing through like a bass amp that was probably this big. Maybe. It was my little Gorilla bass amp.
Dude,
I had this terrible... The action on my bass was about an 2-inch gap between my strings and my fretboard. It was the worst bass.
Dude,
it was so hard to play.
We were all playing through that amp.
Oh,
bro.
yeah, even better. Okay.
With the mic hanging from the ceiling.
And there are
so
pictures
it was like
that
we
exist
could
of this.
sing into the mic and hear all of ourselves.
There's a box.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we didn't have a mic stand,
Ridiculous.
so the mic was dangling down. Oh, it was so terrible. And so, okay, so it was absolutely the worst thing ever. And then, but the good thing about that night was that was where we met our drummer, Aaron Brown, a.k.a. the Hessian. That was the first time we met him. I would love to have him come on, too. He's commented and said hello. So, hello, Aaron, if you're watching. We miss you, and I think you need to come on the show so we can sit down and talk about stuff. But Aaron, we met, he was like 19. He was a little guy, just a wee lad. And I don't remember, but I don't remember much how...
Beer.
Yeah, oh, good.
He was a
now we're going to
baby.
get arrested. Shh. I think it's past the statute of limitations.
Why don't you go ahead and edit that out too?
He wasn't the only one.
Yeah, that's true.
Edit that out too.
So how did we meet him? I don't remember that part.
I went to high school with him and George.
Okay.
And
Oh yeah,
Chris.
George was there.
Slutter.
Oh yes, George. Fuck, I've known George for. Oh, sorry, my bad. Bleep that or something.
Yeah.
So I've known George for a long time too.
Yeah, George is one of our really good friends, and he is definitely like a very important part of the band,
Yeah.
even if he wasn't in the band.
Yeah,
George was our roommate in the house. He he's an awesome guy. He's been like tight with everybody the whole time. He and so I think he was friends with Aaron at the time, and somehow we all met at the same time.
Yeah.
Aaron.
They were like best friends in high school or something.
Something like that.
effect.
So it turns out that actually finding Aaron was probably the greatest little bit of luck that we could have had, because Aaron was a phenomenal drummer. Like, no shit. Oh, God, I did it again. Okay, no lying. Aaron is one of the best drummers I've ever seen. He's got such a cool style and such a flow when he plays. And I love Danny's style too, and I've loved all the drummers we've had. Danny has a different vibe, and it's not in any way lessened to Aaron's. It's just music is subjective. No matter what you say across the board or what you listen to, you're gonna like it or not like it. But Aaron and Danny just have slightly different styles. But man, Aaron was a phenomenon at the time, and he made all of us way better musicians, because he's a multi-instrumental, very technical. He taught us a lot about just syncopation. That was his buzzword. He loves saying that.
Man, that shit went for. Oh, dang, me too.
That's okay.
That thing went for like weeks, man. Every time he talked, it was about syncopation.
It was always about syncopation, but it really did. Having Aaron in the band, it just improved us immensely. It made us go from just some kind of figuring things out to really like, and then I really started paying attention to. I think my strength as a songwriter is not necessarily I'm not that great of a technical player. I'm not that great of a riff writer, but I think I'm good at song structure or figuring out how things flow. I don't know. That sounds arrogant. I'm not saying it arrogantly. I'm just saying I think that is like a thing I'd put in my plus mark. Yeah, one of my strengths. And and Aaron was just an all-around, like, he just like raised our level up, because he knew he was better at guitar than I was, better at bass than I was, and better at drums than anybody. So it made a big difference. So okay, right, this is Halloween night. Then we went to a show and this is what really cemented the band. I think this was actually before, or maybe it was the first night we decided to go out as a band. There was a small little venue in town called Bricks, and it was just like a little hole-in-the-wall punk rock venue, and we saw 2 bands that night. It was Litmus Green and Narcoleptic Youth. Both are theatrical.
Oh, yes.
And
that was a great show.
Yeah.
I have 2 7 Inches by Narcoleptic Youth, and Dr. Strange, I know, put out one of their LPs. So Dr. Strange Records has these for sure. This one they might not. This is pretty limited. This one is a split with the Voids. It was the first one I bought.
Show only.
It may have been, but it's great. I've got it signed by Joey, the lead singer, Joey Bondage. And then, oh, it's like sticking. Oh well, it's okay. I don't really play this one too often, but it's on pink vinyl. It's the single is Barbie and Bondage, but oh man. Okay, so as far as an influence goes, it isn't necessarily a musical influence, but just an overall vibe.
Nice.
Yeah, Narcoleptic Youth cannot be understated for creating the Order of the Fly. Seeing that show, it was sort of like the Clash seeing the Ramones or something, or
didn't you book us a show?
Joy Division seeing Sex Pistols.
Didn't you book us a show and we weren't even a band because of that?
Sarah did. Actually, it was Mike Maxwell's girlfriend Sarah. We decided when we went, super overachiever. When we went to that show, she just walked up to the owner and was like, "I'm managing a band, and you need to let them play." And we were gonna play New Year's Day, so we made flyers. I should have brought the art. The first T-shirt we ever made.
Songs.
But it actually forced us to write a lot. So then we pretty much wrote most of the full first album, just trying to get ready for that show. And the show fell through because somebody like smashed the window the day before or something. So
well, that, and it was the Y2K.
Oh yeah,
so
that's right.
Everything was like
going crazy.
The world is gonna like die because nobody knows.
Yeah.
Computers don't know like anything after 1999.
So excellent. Yeah. So that would have been our first show. It didn't happen though, of course, because the Order of the Fly is the most accident-prone, and
because that's our lot.
We define Murphy's Law. So, long story short, we started the band. That was basically how the band actually began, how we all met. And our influences. Now I'm going to go back to bringing up some records. I'm going to bring up a new band probably each week that is a major influence upon us. So, I've just been talking about records I love. Alice Cooper, obviously, is one of the main artists. I've talked about him the first episode, and I want to go further in depth into how influential he is to me. But just because it's the first one we're going to do, I'm going to do the most obvious band that everybody tended to associate with us, of course. So the definite, clearest influence has to be the Misfits.
I had no idea who they were when we started. Just to throw that out there.
These 2 albums, but specifically this one, this is my favorite original Misfits lineup, Misfits album of all time. Probably my favorite Misfits album. Earth AD is the one to listen to. Everybody else might like different eras. I don't really dig the Legacy of Brutality 50s vibe. I love Walk Among Us, but there's something about the sort of proto thrash metal style and the really dirty, grungy production of Earth AD that's like the Misfits to me at their peak, except for when Mike Graves got in. I don't care if it makes me sound like a poser, but holy smokes, Mike Graves was a game changer. Hearing that first album was absolutely like mind-blowing, and the only reason I even knew about it was because I saw their action figures. Like, I didn't even know they got back together, but I was like, oh, cool, man. Yeah, they're like giant Migos. So speaking of,
I'm not afraid to admit it to anyone. The Michael Graves era Misfits was my favorite for sure.
I didn't even know about the Misfits pre-Michael Graves.
Right? It was just great because you're not like dude. You're so out of frame, bro. You are so out of frame. It's ridiculous. Okay, now you're good. All right.
Bring your toys and come sit down.
Come on, come play with your toys over here.
Let's finish this.
I got
toys.
I got my toys. I got my Doyle and I got my Jerry. They're both really dusty and their parts are falling apart. They're kind of coming undone, but these things were badass. But anywho, I saw them in a store and was like, I think it was in Hot Topic, and I was like, oh man, they made Misfits action figures. That's awesome. They looked really good. I mean, I think they won some award for best action figure of the year in a toy convention. Yeah. And they're awesome. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I do play with them. I like to make sure they're in cool poses. They even have strings. There's like fish line on their guitars and stuff. They but then from that I learned, oh, they reformed. The internet was like still pretty brand new. I wasn't like used to Googling things all the time or looking for like bands I used to love. Yeah, I still have an AOL. And so I found out through that American Psycho had come out, and Famous Monsters I think was already out, or maybe it was just about to come out. Yeah. So, oh man, that album, American Psycho is great, but Famous Monsters, the production on that album is what I've been chasing my whole life. Everything on that sounds so good. We're gonna have to restart this thing in a second. We're almost at a half hour already. It's going fast.
You had to cut a bunch of stuff.
Oh, I do. But
you
man,
haven't
I love
even
that
talked
album.
about all
so
those
I don't
albums
care.
yet.
I mean, it's not. It's like so far gone in the past. I don't care what anybody says. I love Michael Graves' voice on those two albums, especially Famous Monsters. It just doesn't get cooler. I love it. I like it better than Danzig's. In fact, I'm just gonna throw this out there for anybody else that's a horror punk band. If you're gonna start a horror punk band or you're in one, please stop trying to sound like Danzig. Danzig sounds like Danzig. Sound like yourself. Everybody has their own voice. You don't have to do Danzig. Danzig's already kind of doing Elvis. Just do you, man. Don't do Danzig.
You be you.
He has the corner of that market. Unless you're gonna do a cover and you really want to do a real accurate cover of something. But I just think that of a small genre like horror punk, it's very oversaturated with Danzig-y vocals. So I'd just like to put out the suggestion that allow your own voice to flourish and to present itself. You don't have to sound like someone else, even if you love them. I wonder if we can wrap it up. No, okay, so that's my intro. I'll delve more into the Misfits later. And
He said no.
Yeah, I know. We gotta get there. So we've got to get to the point where the band really took another change, and that was when we met Jason Thedick. So the first
that was
lineup
at 2nd Avenue Ale House, right?
Yep.
So that's where the band started. We got a couple of gigs. Yep, I think one of our first few gigs was at a place in Upland called the 2nd Avenue Ale House. And we played here in town at a place called Lyrics in San Bernardino. We sort of developed our look. Originally, I made these like elaborate, like kind of guar-esque like horns for everybody.
Ooh, can I say it? Can I say your name when we first fucking started this shit?
Of course, yeah.
Please.
Mm-hmm.
So Ralph decided that he was going to be called Pluto Ionosphere.
Yeah.
Which was amazing.
I was going for a David Bowie,
like,
very glam rock. I had like leather pants.
Oh, it was great. Like a pleather
pictures.
Like a pleather shirt. It was fantastic.
I'll have to get some of these pictures edited in.
Fishnet shirt with pleather pants.
No, I didn't do the fishnet shirt.
No, yeah, cause and then he did
you
like.
did a fishnet shirt, I think. No, I don't know what I did. It was like a
Aaron
spandex shirt. Okay, all right. I think I looked like an idiot, man. It was so bad. It was very far away, but it was sort of like this, but with like I had horns, these big giant horns, and like these
like
medical tubing kind of mohawk, like long mohawk thing. Oh man.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it was like
I don't want to talk about my horns.
Guar had the ram horns.
Yep.
You had the little like devil horns. I looked like I had a smashed butterfly on my face.
Yeah.
I had no idea how to do makeup.
It was very Gene Simmons. It was very Gene Simmons in that first round. So we were like Guar is another the two definite biggies in the beginning were Guar, not as much sonically but more visually for sure. And I just wanted to do something over the top. So but we realized quickly that was just not working. It looked so dumb. So then we ditched the horns and stuff, and just went to straight like Kiss style makeup. Yeah, except you always did a mask.
Yeah,
originally you had a clown mask.
Yeah, I've always done masks.
And then we did the mask prosthetic, like we did an actual head cast on you.
Because the nylon one that I was using that was like vinyl nylon.
Was it cutting into your eyes or your
kept
nose?
Busted my nose every show, and I'd have like black eyes and a busted nose, and we had to ice pack me like every fucking show.
Right.
Sorry. I didn't mean to say that. So
we, so the first few shows we had these weird elaborate like horns and stuff, and we were trying to, and it was okay at first, but it was not worth the hassle. It was stupid.
Yeah. It's hard to headbang when you.
Yeah, when your whole thing's gonna fly off. Yeah, fiberglass horns that weigh like 10 pounds on your head. Mike's looked the best though. His ram horns were pretty sweet.
Yeah.
They were pretty
They
sick.
all actually looked really
They all did look pretty cool, yeah. Maybe we could bring them back for like some retro things.
For one song.
Something lightweight though, not
No.
One song. Just one.
Maybe we should do some like video.
Okay, she said one song. I'll do one song.
I could just remake them. Yeah, I'll recreate them. So then we after a few shows and we played around. We played at a place called Mike's Backyard Bunker in Yucaipa.
Please, can we skip this episode?
Yeah.
We got like booted out of that place.
And we had to go back because we accidentally took
left a fog
their
machine.
fog machine, so
Yeah.
we had to go return it. And they thought we like stole it, but it was literally the exact same fog machine that we had.
Yeah, that was a nightmare. All this stuff is like, all the pre-internet way of getting shows was such a pain in the butt. I mean, trying to book shows and play before it was, email was like really like, something that everybody just did and took for granted, and you had cell phones and stuff. Man, it was a pain. This is like, I had a beeper, I think, around this time. That you guys got me because you got so tired of me. Remember, I was always like, I would just disappear, and yeah, I know.
You were always gone.
Yeah, so they got so tired of me like not being available that they all pitched in and got me a beeper.
A beeper. Not even a cell phone. A beeper.
A little orange one.
Hey man, it was cheap and we could afford it at the time.
It was great.
And we were able to get a hold of you when we needed to.
Yep.
So
we did a few shows there, and then we played at a place here in town that was like a Mexican like restaurant called that they would turn into like a punk rock venue called the Rancho Rodriguez, booked by this guy, Mr.
Ranch.
Gig. Yeah, the Rock Ranch. And we played a bunch of shows, and so we started getting better, and we started developing a little bit of our sound and getting at least a little tighter. Then we played this place, the 2nd Avenue Ale House in Upland, and when we played, the band that opened up was called Hero to Zero, and this band was like the
Weird.
greatest. Well, they weren't the greatest. The lead singer was the greatest.
Weird.
They were weird, but Jason was a
he
sight
was the
to
weirdest
behold.
A
one.
witch hat, and the other guys in the band were wearing like basketball
Yeah,
jerseys.
he clearly belonged to us and not them, and he was the coolest front man. That if you didn't see Jason Prince in 2000 fronting that band.
You just said he clearly belonged to us.
He did, man. I mean, it was like it was awesome because we saw him and
Even
it was
he
like
knew it.
it was total bromance at first sight with me. I saw a guy and I was like, dude, that dude's badass. And then
I remember when you told me, you were like, dude, look at him.
he is so cool. He was like, okay, this is the first time we play with him. He literally he had these crazy new rock boots with flames on him. He was wearing a straight jacket. He had a
This
witch's
is
hat.
where-
He had makeup. He jumped on stage and poured like 151 on the bar, he jumped on the bar, poured 151 on the bar, and lit the bar on fire. And he blew fire. It was like the greatest thing I've ever seen. I was like,
This is where
guys in his band were wearing baseball jerseys.
yeah. And I'm
or
a sucker.
basketball jerseys,
I'm
whatever.
a sucker
Yeah,
for
people wear
vocal effects.
jerseys
I
in
love
baseball.
affected vocals, and he had a Yeah, I know it didn't look good at all. The other guys, he had this a vocal module that did like a doubler and like a harmonizer, and it just it was just awesome. It was so cool. So we played with them, and he liked us and we liked them. Then so we set up another show, and we both realized that like it was just there was a good vibe. So he decided to quit his
he was gonna
band.
join our band.
Yeah, he basically announced it to us. He's like, you know what your band needs is a keyboard player. No, he said is a keyboard player. And we had been talking to Sarah, the girlfriend of this guy Mike Maxwell, the guitar player, about playing keyboards. Luckily, we didn't ask her to because then it presented us the entryway for Jason entering the band. So I'm gonna stop the history of our band tonight there because then the next time I want to try and get Jason out here so we can get his side of the story and everything.
luck
But
on that.
yeah, I know if we ever see him again, it's tough to drag him out. He's a busy man. So
Aren't we all?
yeah. So around that time, just to wrap it up, what were some of the other musical influences we had that were major at the time that you can think of?
9 Inch Nails.
9 Inch Nails, obviously. I'm gonna do a whole episode on 9 Inch Nails.
absolutely 9 Inch Nails.
At
Tool.
least for me, anyway.
Yeah, Tool for sure.
I'd say one of my favorites, but that
Yep.
had no influence on our band whatsoever.
Although through Aaron,
it
Aaron was a
actually-
huge fan of Danny Carey's
it
drumming.
actually did.
Aaron was huge. He was hugely influenced by Danny Carey's drumming.
But 9 Inch Nails did have a lot of bearing on what we became as
Oh
Enzo.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yep.
Like,
And then yeah, exactly. That was always the sort of goal Yeah, we'll get into that too.
Yeah.
Because that was more of like a steep learning curve for me to figure out how to do things like sequenced synthesizers and stuff like that. But so that's it for tonight. Hopefully this was halfway entertaining and you enjoyed having everybody else having the little history of the band out. I guess there are some funnier stories, so we'll have to like sort of
There's plenty
bring
of
them up.
funny
Yeah, once we
stories.
can get everybody here, man, there's some great stuff, some just hilarious antics. But thanks again for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. Please go on Bandcamp and search for Vampire Stepdad and buy a tape or two. Look up Narcoleptic Youth. They still play. They play out all the time, and I don't know who's in the lineup now. I mean, Joey is still singing, but I'm not sure who the rest of the band is. But man, that is a great band that just never got the notoriety they deserved.
Yeah.
And okay, I hope you have a great night, and talk to you next time.